More than 6 decades ago, at the dawn of Nigeria's independence, things fell apart. It was the beginning of what will determine the fate of a nation in search of a common ground. The day, January 15, was the day the military struck, ushering years of military juntas that led the country into the precipice of disintegration and at the same time winning the unity of the country. First, with the 15 January 1966 coup that led to the killing of some political actors and the consequent civil war, and the surrender of the Biafran soldiers to the sovereignty of the Nigerian state on the 15th of January 1970. For exactly 4 years in the first decade of Nigeria's independence, the unity of the country was contended, and 61 years after the civil war, the country has remained together. While the nation's unity remains debatable, as manifested in secessionist agitations, members of the armed forces of Nigeria have played critical roles in protecting the sovereignty and territorial integrity of the nation, costing some even with their lives. It is for this reason that today, being the January 15th, is commemorated to remember those who have paid the supreme price while serving our dear country. Today is also significant as we honor those still in service of the country in the military. How is Nigeria healing from the impacts of military incursions? How is Nigeria honoring its servicemen? This is the issue in focus today. My name is Ayubelia. Thank you for joining us on the show this morning. Thanks for staying with us. Now, while we honor those who have sacrificed for the nation's security, a Democrat and elder statesman, Isiaku Ibrahim, has a contrary opinion on the activities of today. Take a look.
We are talking about Military Remembrance Day. Traitors, people who betray their oath of office. People, the day when they were to be commissioned as a second lieutenant or a first lieutenant, they took the oath that they are to respect the constitution of this country. Their role is just to protect the territorial integrity of our own country. And that's the same they warned. They said only irresponsible officer will participate in a coup. A gentleman officer never participate in a coup. So you are now celebrating people who are not gentlemen officers. Then you expect me to accept that rubbish. So, as a journalist, if they had given you the assignment, you should at least come to sit down and discuss with me that this is the assignment they give you. Am I going to participate? But you, in this country, you are very lazy. You don't do your research and everything. You can walk into me to say, oh, the remembrance of the military.
Well, there you have it. Contrary opinion. I mean, one would say that today is a day set aside to honor, those fallen heroes. But here is it, there is it. He thinks otherwise. Now, let's get other perspectives to the significance of today. I have in the studio Musa Salmanu. He is a wing commander, retired, and also security and development expert here. Thank you for joining us this afternoon on the show.
Thank you so much, Ilya, for having me. Good afternoon, viewers.
All right. Well, there you have it. We have people who hold this contrary opinion, who think that there's nothing to celebrate, to commemorate, really, if you look at, all that is really going on, in the country, right from, decades ago up till today. What's your own thoughts about the significance of today?
Well, I think it's okay to have people with contrary opinion because that's how democracy is, and that's how society should be. We can disagree on even the most fundamental issues, and it's good that the media is providing that avenue for people to show that, to vent out those issues or to say their own perspective. So it's okay that people disagree, that there's nothing to celebrate. And like I saw the elder statesman saying, or I heard him saying, that in fact it's an aberration that we are celebrating. While that view might be his own, I have a contrary view. I have the feeling that there is everything to celebrate. In fact, there is so much to celebrate that it's worth celebrating every day, actually. Because when we say we're celebrating, we're not celebrating a particular set of people. We're not saying we cut it to only those that were in the military between maybe when Nigeria became independent or long before that, and just maybe up to January 15 or after the Civil War. We're celebrating anybody that has taken up or has given up his life to say that I want to serve the country. Because military, as the word goes, is service. When you decide to join the military, by all intent and purposes, you have decided that you want to serve. It's service. I mean, nothing is much, or nothing can pay you for that sacrifice that you make. I tell you, the moment you decide that you're joining the military, that moment you have decided that you have sacrificed everything that you have, including your life. It is clearly spelled out in the forms when we bought or when we got our forms for the Nigerian Defense Academy. It's clearly our parents or guardians had to sign that if we incur or if we sustain any injury, or if we should die in the course of this training, that is training, that there was no any liability, or I mean that it was part of the training. That was just training. And thereafter, even when we started the service, or throughout the training, we're being told that this is the job, part of the job description is that you're going into harm's way. When that shot is fired and everybody takes cover, or everybody runs away or is being evacuated, you get in.
All right. Now, there are voices, or there are some who will say, well, is Nigeria worth sacrificing for? I'm sure you would have heard that, you know, in some quarters by some people. There's a view that is being shared. So, yes, let's ask the question. Is Nigeria worth sacrificing for, as someone who have served, you know, in the service?
Absolutely, yes. And if you ask me the question, will I have done the same thing that I did as far back as 20-something years old? I joined the military in 1996. Could I have done fresh from the secondary school? Could I have taken the same road today? I would say yes. Are there any regrets? No. So the simple question is, Nigeria worth sacrificing for? I say absolutely yes. And will I do that? Yes, today. And will I encourage someone to do that? Yes. My son wants to get into the military, and I have no problem in saying, if this is what you want, then get in. But I have to tell you that this is a work, or this is a job that is a thankless service. There is a sacrifice. It's not about if you get anything or whatever. You have to be interested in it, and you have to know upfront that you're going into something that might, and part of it could be that it may cost you your life. So Nigeria is worth sacrificing for.
So, but I want you to still talk to us about, you know, why you believe that Nigeria is worth, you know, sacrificing for. Why would you say that people should lay down their lives for a country that, for instance, do not really care, in their own opinion, about their welfare? I mean, we've seen retired servicemen on the street protesting about their benefits. We have people who even fought on the Nigerian side during the Civil War, you know, still not being, you know, captured in the pension scheme. and all of that. So if you look at some of these issues, isn't it discouraging, really?
So, is Nigeria a perfect state, or the answer is no. And are there things that are done wrongly? Yes, there are. Are there things that could be improved upon? Yes, and there are things that could be improved upon. But are there some things that we could look up to? And the answer is yes. Now, if you look, first of all, in Nigeria, we have to look at it from the self-preservation part of our perspective. As a human being, you need that first shelter upon yourself. And in this context, Nigeria is that shelter that we have, all of us. Wherever you go to, whatever you do, you're first a Nigerian before anything. And wherever you go to, whatever you become elsewhere, the first or the last place you want to return to, or that you should feel comfortable returning to, is Nigeria. Now, if you have gone, and in the course of the military service, I've gone to places. Some places in war. I served in the Democratic Republic of Congo for 2 years as a peacekeeper. And I have toured around that country. I have seen firsthand some of these issues. And I have seen firsthand what it means when people feel that there is no hope and they give up on their country. But I have also seen I've been in the course of the war to other countries where people have believed. People have said that, yes, we have problems, we have issues, but we could build this from the bottom up. And so when you ask that this issue of Nigeria, I think it's a problem. It's something that when you have a part of your body that is having an ailment, what do? Do you cut it off? You don't. What you do is to go and sit back and say, how do I heal this? You go to a medical doctor. You avoid a lot of things. Sometimes you make life changes, decisions, and so on and so forth. So I think what is required from us is that, who is Nigeria? We are the ones. We are Nigerians. Is it the institutions, the leadership, the followership is all constituted of us. The leaders are from within us. The followers are us. The institutions are run by us. People that we have influence over, that we have influence on, and people that we could talk to, or even ourselves. Now, the question we have, I think the most important thing always is to consider, what am I doing? Yes, after I've identified, like we said about the ailment, when you identify that, is there anything you're doing? Is there life-changing decisions you're taking to ensure that you improve on your own health, if we're looking at it in that way?
And that's why people, may share the idea that, well, this our ailment, it seems like an ailment that cannot be treated, like it has gone beyond redemption. If you look at, from decades past, the issues that we were dealing with in the 60s and the 70s seem to be the same issues that we're still talking about. For instance, if you talk about national cohesion, there are some in this country that believe that, look, there's no point, of sticking together. That some even said that the Constitution is a fraud, that there was never a time that actually Nigerians came together to agree to stay together, that it was just, some kind of contraption, and all of that. So how do you get patriotism from a people like that? People who do not think that there's nothing to hold on to, really. So, especially from the southwest, eastern part of the country. Let me just even put it in that context.
So, the narratives that we say out, the outlook, or how we even view things differ, depends, or based on so many reasons, so many factors, and so on. So there are so many factors that make people think that Nigeria, one, is not worth sacrificing for. Secondly, that is having this endemic ailment that cannot be resolved. And thirdly, that should not even continue to exist as it is. But I say that you look at the options, you look at what are the other options, and say that when you look at them and pick them one after the other, you find out that we are still better off together. Now, I'm not saying we are having a perfect federation, and this is something that other people will go into. The issues of constitution, the issues of that we, like someone said, a geographical expression and so on and so forth. But I want to say that there is strength in diversity. All these countries that we look at have this diverse nature. When you look at the United States, for example, people came in from various places. You have those that came in from Europe, those that came in from everywhere. If you go, but Nigeria should be that melting point where everybody comes with our differences. It's okay to be different. And it's okay to think differently. It's okay to think that we shouldn't even exist together. But what I think we should do is to go beyond those mere statements and interrogate the reasons why we say that. Now, and ask ourselves those fundamental questions that, is it not something that we can, if we are true to ourselves, that we can correct? Now, if we talk, how should we, for example, still be talking or blaming Constitution of, say, 1960 or what was done in 1914 about the issue of the amalgamation and so on and so forth? If we have come together, despite and in spite of our differences, we should acknowledge those differences. We don't have to be like the same. We don't have to be in uniform. You're wearing black, I'm wearing white, for example. I mean, even in colors, it's a matter of taste and so on. You speak a different language, I speak. We might share different religions. But those are just personal issues. And that does not mean that we could not, recognizing that and respecting each other. I respect the fact that you have chosen to choose that color, for example. And whether I like the color or not, it's something that you like, and it does not hurt me. All right.
Okay, now let's talk about, how Nigeria is honoring. I mean, we've been talking about that, but I want us to take another dimension now. How Nigeria is honoring its servicemen. Earlier on, you said your son is interested in joining the military, and having passed through the service and looking at how retirees are being treated right now, you still think that, you want to encourage him to join the military?
Now, this is taking it up home, personal and so on. Yes, I will, because I'm someone that believes in change, that things are dynamic. The issues of dynamism, that change, things that are here today, that if we look at them holistically, and if we are true to ourselves, that we can correct them and improve on them tomorrow. So I am looking that this is where we are today. It's not the best situation. There could be things that could be done better. But now that we're talking about them, that means perhaps change is on the corner, at the corner. And if we are holistic about this change, if we adopt it, that means things could improve and things could be better. So I think it's for us to look inwards and say that we have to approach issues with a mindset or with a perspective of that, yes, this is where we are, but if we work harder, if we identify what are the issues, if we interrogate what is existing or what we think we know about them, and if we are true to finding solutions, then we can improve on them. What used to happen a lot of times is that we are a nation that we don't dialogue amongst ourselves. We don't talk amongst ourselves. We just talk to or whatever. We don't talk with. You don't, everybody's just talking to the other. I want you to take my views, my perspective, but I'm not ready to listen to you. Okay. So if we open up and we discuss, I'm very sure that we'll get solutions.
All right, now, we are talking about, retired veterans.
Yes.
Let me just say veterans who have been owed, 24 months arrears. They're on the streets protesting. We've also talked about, some of the benefits, say, for instance, those who fought on the side of Nigeria during the Civil War, still not being paid their pension and all of that. Now you are retired yourself. What are your expectations? And from what you have seen so far, are you comfortable with the way things are being done when it comes to retirees? Okay,
like I said, we are not yet there. It's not El Dorado yet. It's not yet that we have not reached that peak to say that we are really giving these veterans what they actually deserve, because anybody that has sacrificed his entire youth. Remember, we get into the academy at the age of, say, 16, 17. That's and you don't retire until you're about 55, 60. That's if you go the whole lot for 35 years. That means your entire youth is spent in this institution serving your country. And in this period, anything could have happened, anything. Just think of it. We have incidences or situations now that people are in the war front. As we speak with you, perhaps there are locations that are being attacked. There are people that are being killed. Now that I speak with you, perhaps, right? So if anybody that has done that has stayed away from his family for almost eternity, if I'll call it that way, there is nothing that you can do to say that I've paid you back what you have done, the sacrifice you have done. Now, in a population of more than 200 million, to have a few, less than 300,000, to say that they have taken up this, then you know it's a sacrifice that if you look at the proportion, then you find out that these are really people that we still celebrate and people that we should, in a way, honor and say thank you for the service that you've offered to the nation. However, are we there yet? No, we're not yet there. But have we moved from where we were? I'll tell you yes. I listened to your morning show this morning, and a senior veteran was talking about the issue of the medically boarded and the struggle that they went through up to when some of them were put into the pension payroll. Now, if you look at the situation from 1979 or before then, they were medically boarded and retired, to when they were put back on the pension payroll, then you find out that it really got so bad. If you are a resident,
I mean, that's a long time, isn't it?
Yes, it's really a long time. But then that's what I'm saying, that we are making progress.
Is there an implication of this on the way we recruit new people into the service and on the way we are fighting insecurity in the country? What's the implication of some of these things?
Now, the implication is that if we do not find a solution to it and quickly, it means that we're not going to get the best hands to join. Now, during our time, for example, and the way the Defense Academy is structured in terms of recruitment, you find out that, I mean, without being immodest, anybody that joined the academy at that time, you find out that among your peers or amongst those that applied in your state, you must be above average. Now, that means the recruitment process is such that it targets the best from every community or from every state. Now, if you put the best or you get them the best, that means they could have fitted in other conventional universities and everywhere. But they chose, for one reason or the other, to join the military. Now, if people that are that, you find out that if things are not done well, then it's difficult to keep them. Now, because they have options, right? They could fit into everywhere. Now, and again, it affects recruitment in the sense that young people will look in and say, well, 30 years after, is it really how I want to look like? Do I want to be part of the dregs of society and so on and so forth, or looked down on and so on? So that affects recruitment, the quality of recruitment that we'll get. Now, it also affects even professionalism in a way that if you are seen senior veterans and you're saying that this is not what I want to be like or look like, then there is that tendency that you will not give 100% of your time or 100% of your effort in what you're doing, because you'll be thinking, okay, well, what happens to me? So if we are to take care of that, then you find perhaps maybe people thinking that if a medically boarded could be from that early 70s or thereabout, and it took them up to this long to get on the payroll, and now the issues are cropping back again, then it means that, okay, well, really, people will start having that second thought.
Some have even died already, you know.
Yes, some have died, and it's unfortunate, because when there is, remember that anybody that fought the Civil War, it should be very elderly, 70s and above. Now, it's expected that their medical condition, even those that didn't have any medical issues, by the time you're that age, we all have aged parents and so on, and we know that with age comes issues of medical situations and so on and so forth. So it is expected that those people will have higher medical needs. Now, that will mean that we should have some kind of insurance that should take care of that. And particularly, their insurance should be done, skewed in a way that it takes care of the peculiarity of their age, but then of the types of service that they have offered. Because these are people that have gone into all sorts of risks and dangers and so on and so forth. Some got wounded during the war, and that's why they are, in fact, maybe medically boarded at the court.
We're not even talking about the trauma. Some of them have been traumatized, as a result of serving, and all of that. So how much are we doing in terms of the mental health, of these people?
So in terms of mental health, psychosocial support and so on, we're not doing enough. On leaving the military, I've been working with the military on so many things, and one of them is to one, for example, is the issue of international humanitarian law, but also is to look at the psychosocial support or mental health of those that are serving in these areas or those that have retired. So you find out that you have post-traumatic stress disorder and so on, and so many also. I'm not an expert in that, but what I know is that when we carried out some assessment, we found out that nobody is discussing about that. People have seen blood. People have been in severe weather conditions in the Northeast, for example, for months, for years, fighting and so on. And we have not put in an adequate arrangement or made adequate resources available in a way that they are treated so that they can fit back easily into, first, even the normal military life. And not to talk much about even then the civilian life, eventually when they retire. So you find out that you have people that, because of those trauma that they've suffered in the course of their operations and so on, and they have these medical issues. And that's why the health insurance should be such that it's flexible and includes these peculiarities. Because these were, these issues or the trauma was as the cause or in the course of their duty. Now, so which means the state has a duty or a responsibility to take care of that aspect. In essence, I would say that we're not doing much on that.
All right. Well, we'll take a quick break, and then when we come back, we'll continue our discussion. Wing Commander Musa Salmanu, retired, will be with us again after the short break. Please stay with us. All right, thank you for staying with us. If you are just joining, you're watching Issues on Trust Television, and we have in the studio Wing Commander Musa Salmanu, retired, a security and development expert, talking to us about Nigerians honoring, servicemen who have fought for the unity of the country. We all know that today is 15th January, and this is the day set aside to commemorate those who have fallen. Now, let's talk about, the implication of, having people who have served in the military not being cared for. Now, for instance, we've heard stories about how ex-servicemen are training militants or criminals or bandits or Boko Haram fighters, and all of that. Because they have the skills, they have the training, and all that. So what are we doing to make sure that such people do not end up, after serving the state, becoming a challenge to the state?
So yeah, the first law of nature, as political scientists would say, is self-preservation. People want to survive first, to be able to cater or to take care of themselves and so on. So when the income has ceased and perhaps pensions is not forthcoming and so on, then they could resort to all such acts. But there are also criminal elements, people that no matter what you give them, they are just criminally minded and they will go into that. People that do not understand the trust that the state has given them. However, now looking at that peculiarity, that's why the government came up with the security debarment allowance. Now it's intended that when you have served the country over a period of time and you have gained that experience and skills that unlike other skills or unlike other professions that when you retire, you could go into private practice. With this, your skills, when applied wrongly, could be very injurious to the society. Now the government came up with the security debarment allowance. I heard someone highlighted that this morning, and it was implemented by this present administration. Now, the problem with that, or the problem came in implementation. The implementation, those that suggested to government, I think, and was that they had a time frame to say that if you retired from the military before or after a certain period, that you're not entitled to that security debarment allowance, and that only those that retired from a particular period. I think to be precise, the period is sometime, I think, around end of October 2017. I give you an example. Personally, I retired on the 3rd of October 2017. So by that instrument or by that policy, I'm not entitled to the security debarment allowance. But I've served the country and I've served the military for 21 years. If I've served for 21 years, I have, I think, gotten the skills that could be used differently, and so on and so on. So the argument...
How is it that we've not had that in place until as recent as 2017?
So, you know, it takes a long time for policies to get on track and for people for the policymakers to realize that it's very important. But I guess it's because of the peculiarity of the situation that we found ourselves. Perhaps I'm sure that it has been discussed a long time ago, but the leaders then felt, well, there's no need for that. But with Boko Haram and other old insecurities, we found out, and the examples you give of people ex-service using their skills against the state, there was that feeling that now the state has to find a way to ensure that you don't use that skill that you have acquired against the state. So I think it's a kind of situation of better late than never. And it also goes to what I've been saying, that we're not at the maximum yet. We're not doing we don't have a perfect system, but it keeps improving. However, in implementation also, I want to draw the attention of those that are saddled with that responsibility, that we should be holistic in approach. We should open up even within the military and between the veterans and those that are still in active service and seek for input. Because if you say that you're doing something for veterans, then it behoves that you bring the veterans on board when you are kind of trying to get those policies, when you're looking at those policies. Don't just sit, because if you're not retired, you don't know what, no matter what you read, no matter what it is, no matter what you think you know. You're not retired yet, so you don't know what a veteran feels. You don't know what the reality of what they go through. You find a situation whereby the veterans are either a second thought when you're discussing issues of veterans, or are not even completely considered or their input sought when these policies are being made. And that is what brought the issue of that what you're hearing now, that people that retired before that period of, I think, ending October or early November in 2017, are saying that we also have the skills. We feel that this security debarment allowance should have cut across everybody that has served and acquired the skills, and that it shouldn't have been a situation whereby it's only those that were still in service as at 2017 November that should benefit from that. So I think that's one of the issues that is causing the protest by the veterans.
All right. Well, quite a lot of issues, really. And if you talk about, how this issue of remuneration and the treatment of retirees is going to impact, on the efforts to deal with corruption, even in the service and all of that. Do you think that there's a correlation somewhere there?
Yes, you see, the truth is that, and I think this is, let's not take out the fact that some are criminally minded. No matter what you provide for them, they will still misappropriate. They will still take what does not belong to them. Thieves steal not because they lack what they're stealing, because it's just because they are thieves, for example. Now, but what it does is that if there is a better package, if people know that after retirement they will be well taken care of, it reduces the tendencies of people to be corrupt. Because you know that the consequence of, for example, if you steal and you're caught, and you go through a name that you have built over the years and so on, being soiled and so on, that is a deterrent on itself. So it must be something tough that will push you into that. Now, but the fact that, as I stated earlier on, the first law of nature is self-preservation. If someone feels that not much is provided to preserve them post-service years, then absolutely you find out that they want to make appropriate everything they could get in their service years.
All right. Well, now let's take a look at other dimensions to this discussion. And this time around, talking about whether Nigeria has healed from the events of decades ago, talking about the military juntas, the civil war, and the rest of them. Earlier, we have an interview with Tanko Yakasai, an elder statesman, and he gave his own perspectives to this issue of whether or not Nigeria is healing. Take a look at that clip.
Anytime we started to correct the mistake of the first, the military will come and scuttle the efforts, and we'll go back to square one. And this is what happened. I pray we are now 20 years away from military rule. But unfortunately, we are not out of the woods yet, because those who led Nigeria till today had military background, who came to power through coup d'etat, not through election. Obasanjo, Buhari, whether you like it or not, Buhari, Obasanjo cannot build democracy in Nigeria. I'm not just criticizing them because they are military. The fact in the ground is that they are not able to build democracy. Obasanjo did not build democracy in Nigeria. There was an attempt, but he did not build democracy. Look at Buhari, who tried to contest election 3 times and failed, and succeeded in the 4th time through, by accident, the effort of one individual here. He succeeded. And yet till today, the thing is half military, half civilian. But we are making progress. Our task is to eliminate that half, the other half, in the process, because time is in our favor.
Well, thanks for staying. Tanko Yakasai, an elder statesman, giving us his perspective on Nigeria's democracy and whether or not Nigeria has healed. Now, what are the lessons learned from the moment we had all those coups, till date? Have we learned lessons in terms of knowing that the roles of the military and in a democratic setting at the same time? How are we doing?
So yes, we have learned lessons. Lessons have been learned, and we are learning still. We're not yet there, because if you look at it, this is more than 20 years now since the return to democratic rule in 1999. The military has continually and consistently assured that it's not coming back, that it doesn't see itself as that institution that should concern itself with the issue of governance and so on. That democracy, in a way, has come to stay. We have had so many transitions and so on and so forth. So the military has learned its lesson to stay where it's beat, to remain in its beat. The society also, because have learned that the military is best professionalized when we allow the military to play their role, and we as politicians or the society play our own role, and not to invite the military. Most of the times you find out that if there's the issue of civilians actually inviting the military to say, hey, come take over and so on and so forth. So there is that mutual learning or lessons learned from both sectors of the society, both the military and the civilian, that mistakes can be made, and mistakes indeed in a democracy have to be made. Differences, because democracy is a game of contest, where you see people want to exploit differences, or people want to highlight differences because it's an emotional game and people want to be voted for and not for the other person, so that when the military should be patient enough, in a way, or patriotic enough, let me put it that way, to understand that with democracy comes these differences, and some of these differences sometimes they look as if they are going to explode. Now, when the politicians handle them very well, there's a democratic means of solving those problems without involving the military. I think we are learning that, and even politicians have learned to moderate themselves also when these issues come together and say, okay.
Have they really learned? Because, what some of the common reasons given by the military in those days, for takeovers, for, power takeovers is, corruption, nepotism, in efforts to ensure the sanity of the country in terms of, the kind of hatred that we see manifested in some quarters, secessionist agendas and all of that. It seemed to me that those issues are still with us. And would you say that the politicians are actually managing some of these sentiments and issues, really?
So the good thing with democracy is that if for nothing, there's periodic elections after 4 years. If I'm not happy with what you did in your 4 years, that mandate that we give you or that we gave you, we vote someone else and say, okay, we're trying. We want to try somebody. And that person that is coming on board knows that this is why this person was chased out in a way. So that's one beauty of democracy, that it has the capacity to regulate itself, sometimes through elections and so on and so forth. Now, it is the nature of the participants in that democratic experiment or the democratic dispensation. Is our nature, for example, that it doesn't, whether they are politicians or whatever, you go to the normal everyday life, you find out that these issues that you've highlighted are there. Because the politicians are members of the community or members of the society. They didn't spring in from anywhere. They came in from within that society. So it's a societal problem, and which needs all of us to come to make resolve, whether I'm in a political or I'm holding a political post or not, in my personal life, to say that I'm going to shun, say, nepotism, corruption, and so on and so forth. So that if we have a critical mass of people that are saying, whatever the situation is, I'm going to treat issues on merit and so on and so forth, then you find out that because it's from within us that these leaders emerge. By the time they get there, they have populations that are supporting, are holding them accountable, and Therefore, it becomes a misnomer for you to practice those things. But now, the moment you're appointed in something, or the moment you clinch a post or something, people celebrate. They are not celebrating because of what you're going to bring, but because they are close to you and they feel you are going to tilt the game in their favor.
All right, now finally, let's conclude on this. The issues of insecurity, has been a major issue in the past few years in the country. How can we strengthen our military to be able to perform its constitutional duties?
So I think in terms of strengthening the military, is for the military, first of all, to look inwards. The military has to look inwards and say, if we have been battling a situation for the past 12 or thereabout years, starting from when 2009, when Boko Haram really started and so on, up till now, and we have not reached that, what a state that we want, what are we doing wrongly? What are the tactics and procedures that we have been adopting that perhaps are not giving the desired result? Now, if the military looks inwards and kind of re-strategize within its ranks and come up with better ways of handling the situation, then together with what, then that's the part of the military. But society at large, that's government, communities, and so on, at all levels, should also look inwards and say that what are those issues that necessitated the military to come in terms of intervention in the Northeast? Why did we have to deploy the military in the Northeast? And these are perhaps the root causes. What are these things that could not be solved politically or through dialogues and so on and so forth? And therefore, we might have to go back to those issues and look at them critically and resolve them. Because military have, as we have seen, kinetic use of kinetic means cannot solve all problems. Whatever, even if we are able to militarily subdue the terrorists and so on, at the end of it, we have to come to that table to negotiate certain things, to say, okay, we understand this, and open it for conversation. Okay. So my last word is that the Nigerian society, or we as Nigerians, must be open to reconciliation. We must be open to the fact that we can't have it all.
Okay, let me give you the opportunity to expatiate on that, okay, specifically about military-civil relationship. What's your expectation, in terms of what's the role of civilians, as to relating with the military?
Okay, so in terms of civil-military relationship, I will say that there's a lot of improvement. The military, in some instances, you find out that it's accountable. The military people, perhaps because of the media and social media, that the military instances are being held accountable for what they do, and they respond to the yearnings of the society. Now, what I want to say is that the military, society has to know that the military cannot be civilians. The military institution itself is not a civilian institution. Now, so the military should stop wanting to play like not politicians, like civilians. You are not civilians, you are a military. Now, society also should not expect the military to be civilians. When they are playing their professional role, there must be that limit. Now, oversight is very important. It must be done. It's less now. We have to improve on it. But when you come to operational issues, the military should be left alone to tackle operational issues as is stated in their own profession. Now, sometimes you have a lot of interference from the political side of it or the civilian side of it. And now you find out that you have military leaders that want to be like civilians or politicians. They want to please everyone. So in that process, you find out that you either compromise the efficacy of your operations, and you find out that you are not as effective as you should be. Once the political leadership has decided that this is what we want the military to do, then the military should take on and do it militarily, professionally.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the program today to share your perspectives with us. We do appreciate, and we look forward to having you again.
Thank you so much for having me today.
Yes. We've been speaking with Wing Commander Musa Salmanu, retired, and he's also a security and development expert, talking to us about the significance of this day, 15th of January, honoring our fallen heroes. Well, like he has said, in rounding off the show, I would say that, well, it behoves on us as citizens to always look out for our personnel. I mean, we are talking about military. They are our brothers, they are our sisters, they are our uncles, they are our fathers. And so it's very important that we play our role by promoting them, by encouraging them, by boosting their morale in any little way that we can do, and also provide relevant information for them to be able to carry on the task that the Constitution puts on them. So with that, we wrap up today's show. Thank you for watching. My name is Ayube. Join us again next week for